Hello Internet, welcome back to Tromsø Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the ever-expanding universe, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. Last year I did a video about disturbing books, and I did a video about Dennis Cooper as well, and I think on both those videos I got people commenting asking me if I'd read Kathy Acker, and I thought I had, but I couldn't really remember it, and I said I'd come back to it, and now I have read Blood and Guts in High School by Kathy Acker. And I'm pretty sure I have not read Kathy Acker before. I would have remembered it. I must have confused her with somebody else, and I don't know who that is actually. Somebody who wrote a book about coffee. I have no idea what I was thinking. Anyway, now I've read Blood and Guts in High School, and I would like to give some brief thoughts about the book. I haven't prepared like an in-depth critique, but I just want to share my general opinion and first impressions. I've literally just finished reading it. I don't know a whole lot about Acker, except that she was a New York writer, and I believe that she also was a performance artist of some kind. She came up in the sort of underground publishing scene, and maybe that's why people connected her to Cooper, because she, like Cooper, published initially in like zines and such. This book was originally published in the mid 80s, 84, I think. It was written and kind of put together by her over a period of time in the 70s, as I understand it. I don't know much more about it than that. So it's a novel, but it's a novel that breaks most of the rules that we associate with the novel. Very postmodern, very experimental. To me, it kind of reminds me most of Burroughs, and out of Burroughs' books, most of Naked Lunch. It's more narrative than Naked Lunch. It does have a character that runs through the whole book, but it kind of collapses into these different sections and different stylistic techniques of what appear to be cut up pieces, which, if you're not familiar with that, Burroughs and Brian Geisen invented, is where you write something or you take existing material and you cut it up and you put it into different orders, so it creates strange sentences. There's also like translated phrases from Persian. There's drawings, some quite great kind of obscene drawings at the beginning, and also some very striking maps of dreams. Looks sort of like this. I really, really love these. And this makes me think that in addition to being a performance artist, I assume that Acker was also a visual artist, because this could very easily be something that you would see on the wall of a museum or in a vitrine in an art gallery. Now, I don't think it's possible to give spoilers for this book, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Essentially, it's about a character called Janie, and Janie at the beginning of the book is 10 years old. She's in a relationship with an adult man who may or may not be her biological father, but who at the very least she calls her father. She conceives of it, perceives of it as a relationship. It's quite obviously abuse. Then as she moves through the book, she kind of continues to be abused and treated badly in different situations and scenarios, from working in a bakery to being either sold into or kidnapped into trafficking, where she's locked in a room for a period of time. Later in the book, she travels to Tangiers and she meets Jean Genet. What's actually happening, if anything, is difficult to tell. It's very evidently a kind of fantasy. There's a fairy tale mixed in at one point. The things that are happening kind of clearly implausible, but I got the distinct impression that it was a sort of emotional autobiography. Like, I got the definite sense that this thing of being abused as a child, and then the subsequent kind of hypersexuality and neediness combined with hatred and anger, that all of this might actually be something that Ake has experience of. If she doesn't have experience of it, then her ability to kind of live into the material is extremely impressive. There's a cliche people sometimes use about some types of writing, that it kind of burns on the page, that it's like fire, that the words are like flames. Normally I think this is hyperbole, but in the case of Blood and Guts in High School, I actually think Acker's writing is almost like fire. It's full of obscenity, naivety, sadness, playfulness, imagination. It has absolutely no regard for the normal rules of literature or fiction, and somehow it kind of applies the extremely anarchic, wild approach to literature that Burroughs has in Naked Lunch, but comes off as being something entirely different. And I guess this is because, unlike Burroughs, who was this kind of heroin addicted, older, educated man, gay guy. Acker is writing from a position closer to like Valerie Solanas writing the Scum Manifesto or something. It's got this sort of burning, radical critique of the woman's place in the world, but written through um, association with the mind of a abused teenage sex worker. There are moments of softness in the book. One of them is like when Janie meets Jean Genet and they kind of strike up a relationship. This sort of turns cruel, but initially it's quite sweet. And at that point, they sort of talk about writing. I think these references to literature are quite intentional. She writes both about Genet and about Hawthorne and the Scarlet Letter. She kind of uses sections of the plot of the Scarlet Letter, and at one point, Jeannie seems to be the character from the Scarlet Letter, or she's in her locked room writing, imagining that she is this woman. I feel like Acker has a real reverence for and investment in and love of writing and really considers herself a serious writer at the same time as she has this kind of punk attitude of tear it all down, rip up the rulebook, start again, critique culture. You could say that the book is disturbing. It certainly is extremely sexualized, and the central character is a child, and what happens to this character is, you know, just a series of terrible events in the style of like Candide or something. But there's such a weird sort of artificial nature to the book that I didn't find it disturbing in that visceral way. I found it more painful. There's a core of emotional pain that the book seems to be written from, a kind of cry of lonely helplessness that runs through the text. That was my overwhelming emotional response to the book. And then the last part of the book seems to be maybe a kind of journey after death, perhaps. It's very abstract, sort of beautiful, almost whimsical, referring to Egyptian burial and to Indian religion, I think Buddhism perhaps as well. Just a really strange but quite satisfying and beautiful end to an extremely experimental avant-garde piece of literature. In closing, I think that this is the sort of book that will either really win you over and you'll feel like Acker is speaking directly to your heart and is being very respectful towards you in her belief that you will be able to enjoy and process and engage with a text that is continually collapsing and falling apart and undermining itself. Or you will feel like the book is a total mess and sort of an Emperor's New Clothes situation, in the same way that some people really can't engage with contemporary installation art, for example, and or abstract expressionist painting. I think that this book could fall foul of the kind of the same impulse to dismiss it. But for me personally, it really, really worked, and I'm very glad that people brought Acker to my attention, and regret having confused her with somebody else. Okay, so that's the end of this video for now. If you've read the book or if you know anything about Kathy Acker, if you'd like to talk to me about her, please do jump in the comments. I pretty much always answer anybody who writes at length and says anything that kind of invites a response. I hope that you enjoyed me talking about this. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more from me, and hopefully I'll see you again.